The cafe wasn't fancy, just quiet enough for people who didn't want to talk. The kind of place where spoons sound louder than music. He came there most mornings, pretending it was for the coffee, but really it was for the rhythm. The same table, the same mug, the same corner view of the street. She was part of that rhythm. Always came in around 10, hair still damp from a shower, scarf never tied right. She ordered the same thing, black coffee, no sugar, and always sat near the window, where light made her eyes look softer than she probably wanted them to. He noticed her first because she never looked at her phone. Everyone else did. She read instead, actual books. Thick ones? The kind that took time. The first time they spoke, it wasn't supposed to mean anything. He had dropped his pen, it rolled near her shoe. Sorry, he said, crouching to pick it up. She smiled, small and tired. You're forgiven. And that was it. But it stuck. Now, weeks later, she remembered his order before he said it. Flat white, no sugar, right? He nodded. You have a good memory. Or you're predictable, she said, stirring her coffee. There was no flirting in it. Not yet. Just something that hovered in the pauses between words. She always brought her laptop but barely touched it. Sometimes he'd glance over and see an empty document, cursor blinking like it was waiting for her to say something she couldn't. He understood that feeling too well. He'd type messages to no one, drafts that began with "Hey, how've you been?" and ended with nothing. The kind of text you never send because you already know how the silence will sound. One morning it rained. Not a storm, just the kind that kept people inside longer than they meant to. She was already there when he arrived, jacket damp, scarf in a loose knot. You're late, she said without looking up. I thought about not coming, he replied. Why? He shrugged. Didn't feel like talking. She closed her book. Then don't. That silence felt heavier than words. But not uncomfortable. Just full. He watched the raindrops chase each other down the window. Her laptop was open but dim, screen dark. Her reflection floated in it, quiet and unreadable. After a while, she said softly, You ever write something you don't mean to? He looked at her. Like what? She gave a faint smile. Something honest. She gathered her things first, folding her napkin neatly before slipping it under the mug. See you tomorrow? He nodded. But when she walked out, something small in her tone made him think she wasn't sure. Later that night, he sat with his phone, screen glowing against the dark. There was a new message. Just one line from her. Can you bring my laptop tomorrow? I left it by your table. He stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over reply. He hadn't noticed any laptop. But somehow, it already felt heavier than it should. He brought her laptop the next morning, tucked under his arm like a fragile secret. The sky was pale and indecisive, clouds hovering low. Inside the cafe, it smelled faintly of wet wood and espresso. She was there already, hair pinned loosely, sleeves rolled up, typing something she clearly didn't want to finish. When she saw him, her face softened in relief and something else, quieter. You found it, she said. He set it gently on the table. Yeah. You left it under the chair. Guess I was distracted. He almost asked by what, but didn't. The question felt too close to something personal. He ordered tea instead of coffee that day. Maybe just to seem less predictable. Maybe because he needed both hands free to stop fidgeting. She opened her laptop, checked something, then looked up. You didn't peek, did you? He smiled a little. I thought about it. And? He met her eyes. Didn't want to know what I'd find. She laughed quietly, that dry, careful kind of laugh that hides exhaustion. That's probably wise. They sat in silence. The cafe filled with murmurs and the clink of cutlery. He noticed her nails, short, unpolished, a faint ink stain on her thumb. Details like that stuck with him more than her smile. After a long pause, she said, My daughter used to tease me for leaving things everywhere. She's about your age. He blinked. She doesn't live with you? She's in college. Out east, Must be quiet. She nodded. Sometimes too quiet. He didn't know what to say to that. But the air shifted, slightly heavier, like they'd opened a window they weren't supposed to. He found himself tracing the rim of his teacup. I used to come here with my mom, he said. Before she moved away. She liked the muffins. Do you? Not really. She smiled faintly. But you still order them. Habit. Or memory, she said softly. That silence again. Only this time, it wasn't awkward, it was crowded with unspoken things. He imagined what people might think if they saw them. A young man leaning too far forward, a woman pretending not to notice. He wasn't sure which of them would be judged more harshly. When she stood to leave, she gathered her scarf with deliberate care. You know, she said, glancing toward him. You remind me of someone I used to know. He used to listen like that, like he was waiting for something to make sense. He wanted to ask who. He didn't. She reached for her laptop. He moved first, handing it to her. Their fingers brushed, barely a second, but enough to make his pulse trip. She looked at him then, not startled, not shy, just aware. He couldn't tell if she meant to smile or stop herself from doing it. As she walked away, he sat back, the ghost of that touch still warm on his hand. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. He hadn't seen her in 3 days. The cafe felt hollow without her, the hum quieter, the window seat taken by strangers who didn't know they were sitting in someone else's absence. He tried not to look for her every time the door opened. He failed. When she finally returned, it was a Thursday. She wore the same gray coat, but something in her face was different, a stiffness around her eyes, like she hadn't slept much. She nodded when she saw him, polite but distant. Hey, he said too softly. Hey, she echoed, setting down her bag. Sorry I disappeared. Work, life, both overrated, he murmured. She smiled faintly but didn't laugh. Her hands wrapped around her coffee like it was something alive. For a while either spoke. The rain outside came and went, leaving faint streaks on the glass. She opened her laptop again, but didn't type. The cursor blinked. He watched her fingertips hover over the keys, then retreat. Finally she said, You shouldn't spend so much time here. You're too young to be this consistent. He frowned. Consistent? Predictable. She corrected. That's my age bracket, not yours. The tone was light, but her eyes didn't match. Do I make you uncomfortable? He asked before he could stop himself. She looked at him for a long second. You make me aware. He didn't know what that meant, but it felt dangerous. The barista interrupted, calling her name, her real name. He realized he'd never said it out loud before. It felt heavier in his head than he expected. When she stood to grab her drink, another man entered, mid-40s, casual jacket, the kind of confidence that didn't ask permission. He greeted her easily. Too easily. Didn't expect to see you here again, the man said. She blinked, smiled, and there it was, that practiced politeness, the kind people use when history walks in uninvited. She introduced him without looking directly at the younger man. This is a friend. From the cafe. Her pause was too long. The man nodded, assessing. Ah. Nice to meet you. The younger man smiled back, tight. You too. The man left after a few minutes, but his shadow lingered long after. When she sat back down, she looked older somehow. He's my ex-husband, she said, voice even. We still share a business. Complicated. He nodded. Seems like everything is. Silence. Thick. The sound of a spoon scraping against ceramic. Her eyes met his, fleeting, then held. I shouldn't. She started, then stopped. Forget it. He leaned in slightly. Say it. She shook her head, a small breath leaving her lips. You wouldn't understand. But he did. He did too well. The air between them tightened, the kind that hums before it breaks. Her hand rested on the table, his only inches away. Neither moved. He thought she might. He thought he might. But she only whispered, "Don't look at me like that," and stood up before he could answer. The door closed behind her, bell chiming soft and cruel. He stayed there, staring at her untouched coffee still warm. She didn't come to the cafe for a week. He told himself he didn't care. He told himself he just liked the coffee. But every time the door opened, he looked up, and every time, it wasn't her. On the 8th day, she texted, "Can we walk?" He didn't reply right away. He typed sure, deleted it. Typed where, deleted that too. Finally, okay. They met near the park, late afternoon. The light was that tired kind, soft enough to make everything look honest. She wore the same gray coat, sleeves rolled halfway. "Sorry," she said, not meeting his eyes. "Didn't mean to disappear again." "You're good at it," he said quietly. A small laugh escaped her, the kind that hurts a little. "It's not intentional. Life just gets tangled." They walked in silence. Leaves scraped against the pavement. Somewhere nearby, kids were shouting, their laughter echoing in the wind. He glanced at her hands tucked into her coat pockets. "Was it because of that guy? The one at the cafe?" She stopped walking. "You noticed. Hard not to. He's..." She hesitated. "He used to be everything I thought I wanted." "Then he wasn't?" He nodded. "And now?" "Now he wants to remember us as if we never broke." He wanted to tell her he understood that kind of remembering, how nostalgia can lie to you, how it can sound gentle when it's really just possession. Instead, he said, "You don't owe him that." She smiled sadly. "You're too young to sound that certain." He looked at her. "You think age decides what we feel?" That landed between them, quiet, sharp. She didn't answer. They kept walking until the path curved toward the benches by the lake. She sat first, brushing off the leaves before lowering herself down. He stayed standing, hands shoved in his pockets, fighting the urge to say everything at once. Finally she said, "You make me uncomfortable." He froze. She added, "Not in a bad way. Just, you make me aware of myself. Like I've been asleep for years and suddenly woke up." He sat beside her, not too close. The distance felt like a question neither wanted to ask. He said, "You don't have to explain." "I do," she whispered. "Because if I don't, this, whatever this is, will start to feel like something I can't control." He turned to her then. Her eyes met his, tired, open, unguarded. For a second, it felt like the world had gone still enough to hear both their heartbeats. "I don't want you to lose control," he said. She smiled faintly. "That's the problem. You already make me want to." The wind picked up, brushing hair across her face. He reached out instinctively, fingers hovering just close enough to touch, then stopped himself. Her eyes flickered toward his hand, then back to his face. Neither moved. Neither breathed. The air between them hummed, fragile, electric. And then she asked, barely a whisper, "If I asked you to stop coming, would you?" He didn't answer. He didn't go to the cafe the next day. Or the day after. It wasn't protest, it was protection. Whatever they were building had started to feel too much like a confession waiting to happen. On the 4th morning, he walked past the cafe anyway. Just to see. Her table was empty. The chair pushed in too neatly. No scarf, no coffee ring, no trace she'd ever been there. He kept walking. That evening, a message blinked on his phone. "Did I scare you off?" He stared at it for a long time. Typed no, deleted it. Typed you didn't, deleted that too. He left it blank. Days turned into a slow ache. Routine without rhythm. His mornings felt misplaced, like a song missing its first note. Then one afternoon, she texted again. "Could you drop by? I need help with something. Please." Her address followed. He almost didn't go. But curiosity had always been his undoing. Her apartment was smaller than he imagined, quiet, clean, the kind of place that felt halfway between leaving and staying. A faint scent of coffee and rain lingered in the air. She looked surprised when she opened the door, as if she hadn't expected him to come. "I didn't think you'd actually show." "I almost didn't," he said. There was a laptop open on the table, screen dim. "I just needed help transferring some files," she said. "My daughter needs them." He nodded, sat down, plugged in the drive. The silence stretched, heavy but not hostile. Her voice broke it. "She's visiting next week. I haven't seen her in months." "That's good. She doesn't know about this." He looked up. "There isn't a this." "I know." He waited, but she didn't elaborate. She just watched the screen flicker, eyes glossy in the reflection. When the files finished transferring, he stood up. "It's done." "Thank you," she said, almost a whisper. He walked toward the door, then paused. "You could have done that yourself." "I know," she said again. "I just wanted to see you." That sentence landed somewhere deep, where logic didn't reach. He turned slightly, but she was already looking away, arms crossed, eyes on nothing. The silence that followed wasn't warm this time. It was full of everything they hadn't said. He nodded once quietly, then left. Outside, the night felt colder than it should have been. He walked aimlessly, her voice looping in his head, the faint tremor when she said wanted. When he got home, he opened his phone again. Started typing a message. "I think I've been pretending this doesn't matter." He stared at it, thumb hovering. Then backspace slowly until the screen was empty. He watched the blinking cursor for a long time. "I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence." He locked the phone. Didn't send anything. He saw her again on a Wednesday evening, not at the cafe, but outside her apartment building. She was standing near the entrance, keys in one hand, phone in the other, staring at something on the screen. The wind moved her hair slightly, but she didn't brush it away. He almost kept walking. But she looked up at the exact moment he looked away. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey." It came out half breath, half thought. Neither moved closer, but the distance between them felt too deliberate. "You've been avoiding me," she said without accusation. "You told me to," he replied. "I asked if you would," she corrected. He exhaled. "I didn't know what the right answer was. Maybe there isn't one." A pause. Too long, too quiet. The kind that makes you aware of your heartbeat. Finally, she stepped aside. "Do you want to come up? Just for tea?" He nodded, even though he shouldn't have. Her apartment looked different this time, softer lighting, open windows, faint music somewhere in another room. A book lay open on the counter, face down, like someone had left mid-thought. She filled the kettle, the sound of running water almost too normal. "I kept thinking about what you said," she murmured. "That there isn't a this. Maybe that's the only reason it's safe to talk." He leaned against the counter. "And if there is? Then it's already too late." The kettle began to hiss. She turned it off before it boiled. "I'm not trying to ruin anything," he said quietly. I know." She cut him off, but not unkindly. "You don't have to say it." He stepped closer, only a little. The air shifted. The music from the next room faded into something slower. "I don't want to be something you regret," he said. Her eyes flicked up, tired, raw. "You're not. You're just unexpected." For a moment, that felt like enough. She poured the tea. 2 cups. One in front of him, one in front of her. Neither reached for them. "You remind me of who I was before everything got complicated," she said. He smiled faintly. "Maybe you just forgot you're still that person." Something in her face cracked. Not sadness, not joy, just something honest. She whispered, "If you stay, I'll forget to protect you." He looked at her then, really looked. At the small lines near her eyes, the way she held her mug like an anchor. "I'm not asking you to," he said. A silence followed, one that felt final, not empty. She reached across the counter and touched his wrist, lightly, barely there. He didn't pull away. Her voice was steady when she spoke next. Then maybe just for tonight, we stop pretending we don't care. He nodded once, a quiet exhale leaving him. Okay. The word hung between them, simple, human enough. Time didn't break them. It just rearranged them. He stopped going to the cafe for a while. Then one day, without deciding to, he found himself there again, same corner, same window, same hour. 8:47 a.m. The seat across from him stayed empty, but he didn't rush to fill it. The barista still remembered his order. Flat white, no sugar? He smiled. Yeah. Old rhythms, softened edges. Sometimes she'd text him pictures, a new book, a burnt batch of muffins, a sunset she said looked like a bruise. They didn't see each other every day anymore. But the distance felt steady now, not uncertain. Eventually, they found a rhythm again, slower, quieter. On Sundays, he'd walk to her apartment, and they'd have tea on the balcony. No confessions. No pretending it wasn't complicated. Just two people sharing quiet mornings that didn't need to be explained. Her daughter had visited once. He'd stopped by later that week and seen the framed photo on her shelf, the three of them in the kitchen, mid-laugh. He didn't ask about it. She didn't bring it up. Some evenings they'd go back to that park. The bench was still there, the one by the lake where they almost said too much. She'd bring her black coffee, and he'd bring the tea. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. It was never dramatic. Just familiar. One day she said, "You know, I don't think we ever really began." He looked at her. "Maybe that's why we never ended." She smiled, small, real. "You still look at people like they might surprise you. And you still act like you don't want to be seen." She laughed softly. "Maybe that's our balance." The wind carried the sound of a distant train. She adjusted her scarf, still never tied right, and took a slow sip of coffee. He glanced at her hands, remembering the first time they'd brushed against his. The same quiet electricity, but softer now. Familiar. Safe. "You ever think about that day?" he asked. "The one with the laptop?" He nodded. She smiled. "You never did open it, did you?" "No, why not?" He shrugged. "Because some things don't need proof." For a moment she looked at him, really looked, and he saw something in her expression that didn't need words, gratitude, maybe, or peace. A long silence settled, warm this time. The clock on his phone read 8:47 a.m. again. Somehow, that felt right. He leaned back, the morning light spilling across the table. "Feels like everything finally slowed down," he said. She nodded, eyes soft. "No," she whispered. "We just finally caught up." They sat there, two mismatched souls, sipping silence, while the world kept moving. And for once, neither of them needed it to stop.